Hello, my name is Damayanti Buchori, and I'm from CTSS, the Center for Transdisciplinary and Systematic Science, from IPB University, Bogor, Indonesia. The title of our presentation today is Implementing Transdisciplinarity and Sustainability Science for Conservation Research and Practices in the Tropics. I would like to start with a little bit explanation about conservation tropics, its challenges on the field. We all know that the tropics have faced many challenges, and in a way it's called that complexity is the norm in conservation challenges in the tropics. Land use changes, deforestation, increasing of monoculture plantation, and also illegal settlers have all become a major issue for conservation in the tropics, particularly in Indonesia. This situation is called the wicked problem. One, in fact, says that to conduct conservation in the tropics, you need to understand what complexity is and how complexity is related to the wicked problem. Because the challenges have become so complex so that sometimes it's difficult to define. And it seems to be intractable with a chronic policy failure and socially complex. Sometimes one feels that there is no clear solution. And in fact, what is needed is actually changing of the behavior. So this wicked problem, we are going to use as an example of what is happening on the conservation of the Sumatan tiger, the Panthera tigris sumatra, which is a critically endangered species. A little bit of information on the Sumatan tiger itself. So about 1978, there were 1,000 individuals in the landscape, which range from the northern part of the Larissa ecosystem down to the middle part of Sumatra, and also to the southern part of Sumatra, the Bukit Barisan Selatan. And in 2002, our data show that actually the 1,000 individuals have dwindled into 400 or 500 individuals. And they can be seen across areas of different landscape, not only in the national parks, but also on remnant forests, on protection forests, and sometimes also near villages and the plantation. So conservation of tiger is not a conservation just in the national park, but it's a conservation of the landscape where people, community is part of the conservation effort that needs to be done. So this is a picture of what is happening on the ground. If one, for instance, wants to protect the tiger and make the tiger be able to move from one protected area to another protected area, or to forest area, one forest area to another forest area, one has to pass through, the tiger has to pass through the villages, the private concessions. There are many, communities living around it. So this is what we call as the complex issue. We need to work together with all the land managers in the area because it's a multifunctional landscape. So with that, our discussion for today, our presentation for today, will be focusing on building connectivity of the wildlife corridor in the Dangku landscape. It's part of the Sumatran landscape. And we're going to show how the work with the community is very important in achieving success. I would like to start a little bit with transdisciplinarity and the importance of transdisciplinarity on the ground. We believe that conservation practices hinges on the collaboration of different actors across disciplines and institutions. And traditional community, local community plays a very important role in the conservation success, either due to their vast knowledge of the area and also because of their full support on the field has a huge impact on the implementation. Our experiences has shown that overcoming implicit bias is important in achieving conservation practices. And thus it is important to understand the context of the local knowledge of the communities and integrate this knowledge in a new context through transdisciplinary process. And the integration of modern sciences and local knowledge, which we call transdiscipline, can bring forth new insights into conservation practices. The focus of our work is small area, well, not quite small, because this is a Harapan forest, which is about 95,000 hectares in South Sumatra, and about 26 to 30 individuals have been recorded back in 2017. And also there's a Dangku Wildlife Reserve where 7 individuals were cited in 2014, but there has been question on how many actually exist now, because it is now difficult to find tiger population in the Dangku. And so to be able to have the population go across from one forest area to another forest area, a habitat corridor was proposed. It is important to have the habitat corridor because we understand that if individuals are isolated in different parts of the forest, they will have a limited foraging range and they're also prone to genetic drift. So building a corridor is very important for tiger conservation. And this has been the focus of our work for the past 10 years. A little bit about understanding the area more further. So as mentioned, this is the Dangku, the smaller part, and this is the Meranti. It's a conservation concession by PT Reki. And it is possible actually to develop a corridor in the riparian system. So this is the possibility of developing the corridor. So how do we do that? What is the contribution of conservation science into conservation practices for tiger conservation? So here we propose that partnership for sustainable landscape management is the way forward. Developing conservation partnership with local community on managing the landscape, either for restoration and for the community's livelihood, is key for tiger conservation. And here we are using the transdisciplinary approach and developing the sustainability science by working together at the multiple use of landscape, developing planning together, developing the management model together is key. So multi-stakeholder partnership. This is the first important message that we want to share. The multi-stakeholder partnership should aim to ensure the conservation of a full range of the important ecosystem, the restoration and maintenance of the habitats, the promotion of sufficient opportunities for private species, the restoration of the damaged parts of the environmental system, and of course, the community livelihood. This needs to be done together. And to achieve such land management, there are actually 3, sorry about that, it should be 3 interconnected components. The first one is the science, clarifying the occurrence of the tiger. The second is more the social aspect, the multi-stakeholder forum. And the third is developing the partnership across public, private, and people, how to operationalize the multiple landscape management concept on the ground. So the sciences which was involved is doing a survey, looking at the occupancy survey, conducting camera trapping, doing the ground truth mapping. So this was done in order to understand also the potential preys across the landscape. Conservation science is the foundation of the work for the conservation. And then developing the stakeholder mapping. Who are the stakeholders? Who are the public sectors? Who are the private sectors? Who are the communities? And understanding this complexity, one would think, is it impossible to develop a corridor? Well, we should not be skeptics, because actually, even though there are communities across the landscape, so this is just to show a little bit about the communities, who are they and where are they located. We conducted a survey, an ethnographic study on the communities. And so we identified who are the communities living and when did they come to the area, how many there are in the household, where are they living, what is their source of livelihood, continuous engagement with them, communicating with them, also increasing the awareness of the conservation, the tiger conservation is very important, so that they understand why tiger is important for the landscape. So engagement communication is very important. So the community changed from the initial condition of not cooperative, becoming very cooperative. And through this work, we actually have conducted several success stories. One is actually that the illegal houses that were in the landscape were being torn down with the community themselves who did that. And then restoration of several areas with different types of plants that are done by the community. So rehabilitation of the area, and then demolishing of the illegal houses by the community, and planting together. This is a picture of conducting the replanting and restoration of the area. So the multi-stakeholder forum, we developed a multi-stakeholder forum, which actually it was already there several years ago, but it was dead. So we had to revitalize the multi-stakeholder forum. And through the transdisciplinary process of continuous engagement, we identify together the problem, what is their source of livelihood, and helping them develop their livelihood in understanding their challenges in life, helping them to restore the area, developing a community agreement together, working with the Ministry of Forestry in developing a conservation partnership. So finally, we have achieved a conservation partnership between the public, the community, and also the private sector. So the achievement that we did was we created a farmers group. And one village, it consists of 30 households, and we have 3 villages of a farmers group. And then overall, we developed this conservation partnership agreement between the community and the national and the Ministry of Forestry, so that the community will slowly restore the area, and it's an agreement for them to slowly change their livelihood from the forest area into agriculture area. So they're moving out from the protected area. It's a long process, but our study shows that inclusivity and the changes of paradigm from seeing the community as enemy into a partnership is needed for conservation practices to be implemented. And transdisciplinarity is very important in creating that knowledge together, and how to solve the problem together needs their participation. And thus, this is what we mean when we say overcoming implicit bias. In our context, it's very important to overcome the biases that one has seen from the start from the local community, because they're actually an active participant. And also, it is important if we overcome these implicit biases, because it will lead us to a better conservation, both in the research and also practices on the ground. Thank you.